Chinese submarine fires first. NATO warships already in position when the South China Sea ignites. Saturday, 4:12 a.m., South China Sea, 220 nautical miles southwest of Taiwan. USS Antietam, Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser, detected active sonar ping at 4:09 a.m. 3 minutes later, her towed array sonar identified the source. Chinese Type 093B nuclear attack submarine, 400 feet below the surface, moving at 18 knots, already inside the formation perimeter of USS John C. Stennis carrier strike group. 3 minutes after detection, 2 Yu-6 wire-guided torpedoes launched towards Stennis, running silent at 50 knots, closing fast on 100,000 tons of American naval power. The submarine's captain believed he'd achieved complete surprise. He hadn't. American intelligence had tracked Chinese submarine deployments for 3 weeks. USS Connecticut, Virginia-class attack submarine, had been shadowing the Chinese boat since it left Yulin Naval Base, reported its position every 6 hours. The Chinese submarine captain believed he was hunting, was actually being hunted. American anti-submarine aircraft had kept a P-8 Poseidon overhead continuously. Buoys dropped across the patrol area. The entire approach was monitored. When the Yu-6 torpedoes launched, American forces already had firing solutions calculated, already had weapons ready. The Chinese submarine's perfect ambush was anything but. Antietam's crew had rehearsed this scenario hundreds of times. ASROC anti-submarine rocket launched at 4:12 a.m. The weapon flew 4 miles, dropped a Mk-54 lightweight torpedo onto the Chinese submarine's position. Simultaneously, USS Mustin fired a second ASROC from her port launcher. 2 American torpedoes in the water against 1 Chinese submarine. The Chinese U-66 were still running towards Stennis. 8,000 yards closing. The carrier executed emergency evasion. Maximum speed. Hard turn to starboard, presenting her narrow bow profile to reduce torpedo acquisition probability. First American Mk-54 struck the Chinese submarine at 4:13 a.m. Direct hit against the pressure hull. The explosion was catastrophic. 96 crew members died instantly. The second Mk-54 hit 30 seconds later. Both Chinese torpedoes lost their wire guidance when the submarine died. Ran erratically. One detonated against a small wave. The other ran out of fuel 400 yards from Stennis. The carrier was saved. But the battle was just beginning. Chinese surface forces 80 miles northwest had detected the ASROC launches, were already accelerating toward the American formation, and NATO warships 140 miles south were already moving to intercept. NATO Standing Maritime Group 3 had been positioned in the South China Sea for 11 days. HMCS Vancouver, Canadian destroyer, HMS Defender, British Type 45, HMAS Hobart, Australian destroyer, KRI Sultan Hasanuddin, Indonesian frigate operating under NATO Partnership Agreement. All 4 ships had been tracking Chinese movements since receiving intelligence briefings 48 hours earlier. When ASROC launches appeared on their tactical displays at 4:12 a.m., the NATO commander didn't hesitate, ordered all ships to battle stations, ordered weapons free against confirmed hostile contacts. The Allied warships were already making 28 knots north toward the engagement. What's your tactical priority here? Type A for NATO warships intercepting Chinese surface force before they reach Stennis. Type C for American submarines handling Chinese surface threat while NATO provides air defense. Comment your decision below. Chinese surface force consisted of 6 Type 052D destroyers and 2 Type 0A frigates, 8 ships, combined firepower of 640 vertical launch cells. They'd been shadowing the Stennis group for 3 days, waiting for the submarine to strike first. The plan was coordinated. Submarine eliminates carrier propulsion, surface ships close in, launch maximum missile salvo against disabled carrier. That plan died when the submarine died, but Chinese commanders didn't abort. Ordered attack to continue. 8 ships launched 48 YJ-18 missiles at 4:16 a.m., targeting the American formation, the largest anti-ship missile salvo since the Falklands War. American Aegis network lit up. Stennis's cruiser and 4 destroyers fired 62 interceptors simultaneously, SM-6 SM-2s, ESSM missiles. The defensive fire was comprehensive and coordinated. Shot down 39 Chinese missiles. 9 more were defeated by Phalanx CIWS in electronic warfare. 0 reached the Stennis, but 7 missiles targeted escort ships. 3 hit USS Mustin, 2 hit USS Roosevelt, 2 hit USS Antietam. American escort destroyers took punishment protecting the carrier. 19 sailors killed across 3 ships, 41 wounded. The carrier group was hurt but intact. Subscribe now to get complete tactical breakdowns of how NATO changes modern naval engagements. This is the analysis that goes deeper than any other source. HMS Defender fired 12 Sea Viper missiles at 4:19 a.m. The British Type 45 destroyer had positioned herself perfectly, 40 miles on the Chinese formation's eastern flank. Her Samson radar tracked every Chinese ship, every missile, every aircraft, fed targeting data to all 4 NATO ships through Link 16 data link. The Sea Vipers targeted Chinese helicopters launching from destroyer decks, Ka-28 anti-submarine helicopters attempting to hunt American submarines. 8 helicopters destroyed before they reached effective search range. The Chinese anti-submarine effort was eliminated before it started. American submarines remained safe, could continue operating freely. HMCS Vancouver launched 8 RGM-84 Harpoon missiles at lead Chinese destroyers at 4:21 a.m. The Canadian weapons flew low and fast. Active radar homing, targeted Type 052D destroyer Jinan leading the Chinese formation. 4 Harpoons hit her in rapid succession. Her forward VLS section exploded. Bridge was destroyed. The Jinan stopped dead in the water, burning. Her crew fighting fires that spread faster than damage control teams could contain. The formation's lead ship was gone. Coordination began deteriorating immediately as other Chinese commanders received confusing reports and lost visual contact with the flagship. HMAS Hobart fired 6 RGM-84s at second Chinese destroyer at 4:22 a.m. Australian weapons found their targets. 3 hits. Type 052D destroyer Haiku lost propulsion and steering, circling aimlessly at 6 knots, unable to maintain formation, unable to engage effectively. The Chinese attack that launched with 8 ships coordinated was now fighting with 6, 2 already eliminated by NATO weapons, and the Americans hadn't finished either. USS Antietam fired 8 Tomahawk cruise missiles at the Chinese formation's core at 4:23 a.m., targeting destroyers that remained combat effective. The Tomahawks flew at 550 miles per hour, terrain following navigation, hit 3 more Chinese destroyers almost simultaneously. Wuxi, Zibo, Baotu, all 3 took critical damage. Fires, flooding, power failures. 3 Chinese ships that had launched missiles at American sailors now burning and fighting for survival. The Chinese formation had lost 5 of 8 ships to combat damage in 11 minutes. Don't miss what happens next as NATO and American forces coordinate the final phase. Subscribe and enable notifications for continuing coverage. KRI Sultan Hasanuddin engaged the remaining Chinese frigates at 4:24 a.m. Indonesian frigate operating under NATO partnership fired 4 Exocet missiles at Type 04EA frigate Yuncheng, attempting to flee south. 2 hits. Yuncheng lost all power, drifting. The Indonesian contribution was symbolically powerful. Regional nation partnering with NATO to defend international waters. The message to Beijing was unmistakable. Chinese aggression united regional nations, turned potential partners into enemies, created coalition Beijing never anticipated and couldn't defeat. American P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft had been circling overhead throughout the engagement, tracking every Chinese vessel, feeding targeting data to all Allied ships, coordinating search and rescue for American sailors from damaged escorts. The aircraft's contribution was invisible in combat footage, but decisive in operational outcome. Without persistent surveillance, Allied ships couldn't coordinate, couldn't share targeting data, couldn't avoid hitting each other's weapons. The P-8 was the nervous system of the engagement, connecting all Allied forces under unified awareness. Chinese survivors attempted to retreat at 4:31 a.m., 3 remaining ships turning northwest toward Chinese territorial waters. They left behind 5 burning vessels and hundreds of their shipmates. But retreat wasn't safe either. USS Connecticut had been tracking the engagement from 200 feet depth, identified retreating destroyers as hostile, fired 2 Mk-48 torpedoes at Type 052D Shucheng. Both hit. The destroyer sank in 14 minutes. The submarine that couldn't be seen by Chinese forces had been watching everything, waiting, striking at the optimal moment. 2 Chinese ships made it back to port. The rest of the task group was destroyed. What should the international response be to China attacking Allied warships in international waters? Comment your strategic assessment. NATO cohesion in the South China Sea surprised Beijing's strategic planners. They'd assessed European nations as focused on Russia, assumed Pacific conflict wouldn't activate NATO solidarity, assumed Canada, Britain, and Australia would observe rather than fight. Every assumption proved wrong. HMS Defender fired first when Chinese helicopters threatened American submarines. HMCS Vancouver's Harpoons killed the Chinese formation leader. HMAS Hobart disabled a second destroyer. KRI Sultan Hasanuddin fired the final shots. The combined Allied response was faster and more lethal than Chinese worst-case planning assumed. Beijing had to revise every strategic assessment about Allied unity. The engagement demonstrated that American power in the Pacific was no longer unilateral, was coalition. Multiple nations with different capabilities operating under unified doctrine against common threat. Britain's Samson radar provided superior air defense coverage. Canada and Australia provided additional anti-ship firepower. Indonesia provided political legitimacy. Each ally contributed unique capability that strengthened the whole. Chinese forces designed to fight American forces alone found themselves fighting 7-nation coalition. The qualitative and quantitative disadvantage was insurmountable. The engagement demonstrated that American power in the Pacific was no longer unilateral, was coalition. Multiple nations with different capabilities operating under unified doctrine against common threat. Britain's Samson radar provided superior air defense coverage. Canada and Australia provided additional anti-ship firepower. Indonesia provided political legitimacy. Each ally contributed unique capability that strengthened the whole. Chinese forces designed to fight American forces alone found themselves fighting 7-nation coalition. The qualitative and quantitative disadvantage was insurmountable. Electronic warfare proved as decisive as missiles. USS Antietam's jamming suite disrupted Chinese fire control radar during the main salvo, caused 4 YJ-18 missiles to lose target lock, splashed harmlessly. HMS Defender's electronic warfare systems jammed Chinese communications between ships during critical coordination moments, prevented Chinese destroyers from sharing targeting data effectively. The electromagnetic battle ran parallel to the kinetic one. American and British electronic warfare won it comprehensively. Chinese forces fought partially blind, couldn't coordinate fires, couldn't share sensor data, couldn't maximize the firepower advantage their numbers suggested they possessed. American carrier Stennis remained operational throughout, launched FA-18 Super Hornets at 4:30 a.m., armed with AGM-158C LRASM missiles, targeted Chinese ships attempting to escape. The carrier that Chinese planning intended to sink became the weapon that killed the attack force. Her aircraft found retreating Chinese ships, hit them with precision weapons from beyond defensive range. The strategic irony was complete. Attack the carrier. Lose your fleet to the carrier's aircraft. The Chinese task group learned that lesson through catastrophic experience. This level of detailed coalition warfare analysis requires extensive military expertise. Support this channel with a like if this NATO Warships breakdown provided real tactical value. Regional consequences were immediate. Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force deployed additional destroyers to the area. Philippines allowed expanded American basing rights within 24 hours. Vietnam increased port access for Allied vessels. Singapore offered logistical support to Allied warships. The Chinese attack that was supposed to demonstrate naval dominance instead accelerated regional alignment against Beijing. Every nation watching understood. Chinese aggression created the coalition that would contain it. The strategic miscalculation compounded with every passing hour. American casualty count was sobering but survivable. 19 sailors killed across 3 escort ships, 41 wounded. USS Mustin took the worst damage, 3 missile hits, required significant repairs, but would return to service. USS Roosevelt and USS Antietam had lesser damage. Both remained combat effective throughout the engagement. The Chinese submarine killed no Americans. The massive surface salvo of 48 missiles killed 19. In return, China lost 7 warships, 840 personnel killed or missing. The exchange ratio was devastating for Beijing. Beijing's internal crisis began immediately. Military leadership couldn't explain the outcome to political leadership. How did 7 warships get destroyed by Allied forces? Why didn't the submarine succeed? Why wasn't the carrier sunk? The answers were uncomfortable. American defensive systems were superior. NATO allies responded faster than anticipated. Chinese tactical coordination failed under pressure. The answers pointed to fundamental capability gaps that propaganda had hidden but combat exposed brutally. Tactical lessons emerged immediately from the engagement. Chinese submarine doctrine assumed stealth guaranteed survival. Wrong. American anti-submarine warfare was too comprehensive, too persistent, too capable. The Type 093B was a modern vessel, quieter than previous Chinese submarines, more capable, but still detectable by American systems backed by weeks of pre-positioning and intelligence preparation. Submarine captains who believe they're invisible to American sensors are making a fatal assumption. The South China Sea engagement proved that assumption lethal. Chinese surface warfare doctrine failed on coordination. 8 destroyers and frigates launching coordinated salvo should have overwhelmed American defenses. But coordination requires communication, requires command and control, requires ships working as system. HMS Defender's electronic warfare disrupted that coordination at the critical moment. Chinese captains fired on individual initiative rather than synchronized timing. The salvo arrived in waves rather than simultaneously. American defenses could engage each wave rather than facing the full saturation attack Chinese doctrine intended. Doctrine was sound. Execution failed. Electronic warfare made sure of it. Saturday at 4:12 a.m., Chinese submarine fired first in waters where American and NATO forces were already positioned and ready. By 4:35 a.m., 7 Chinese warships were destroyed or mission killed. 19 Americans were dead. The war everyone feared had begun, and it began exactly as American and NATO planners had prepared for. Immediate Allied response, coordinated defensive fires, offensive action that destroyed the attacker. The Chinese submarine that started it died first. The surface force that followed died next. The lesson was written in burning steel across the South China Sea. Attacking NATO and American forces together means fighting 7 nations simultaneously, means facing air defense systems that can't be beaten, means losing ships that can't be replaced. Saturday morning proved it, and the Pacific would never be the same. How should America escalate or de-escalate after this engagement? Comment your strategic predictions. Your engagement shapes our coverage. Every comment, every like, every subscription, enable notifications. This conflict continues developing. This channel tracks every operation, every weapon system, every strategic implication. Saturday at 4:12 a.m. changed everything? You understand exactly why. Subscribe now and miss nothing.